your gunnery immediately. There may be a couple of things that do help right away with this course, but really what this is about, the purpose of this is to show you things that you can practice on your own. And you can do that in any aircraft. This isn't, I'm using the Corsair for this course, but this isn't just about shooting in the Corsair. You should be able to improve your gunnery in any aircraft using some of the techniques and practice and testing demonstrate in this course. That's really the purpose of it. I would like to run a follow-on to this course that's specifically about deflection shooting and getting more into pulling lead, getting tracking shots while pulling lead, and that's getting a little more advanced, so that may have to come in a follow-on course. We'll see how much we cover here tonight. So this course I'm calling Introduction to Gunnery, and what I'm going to talk about primarily really are three things here tonight. We're going to talk about convergent settings and the effect that has on the bullet stream at various distances. We'll get in flight, and we're going to do that first part on the ground because I want to isolate as many variables as possible. Everyone that is attending here appears to be veteran pilots. I think some of the guys that may be attending tomorrow are going to be new guys, so I start on the ground just because it eliminates some of the flight. But one of the exercises should help eliminate some of those issues, and so that's the second part where we're doing some gunnery practice designed to work on aiming smoothly, being unloaded when you fire, and concentrating your fire better. And then we'll do a third exercise later at the end, hopefully if there's time, that I call the aim small, miss small exercise. And that is designed to kind of start teaching you to fire using a sight picture. In other words, you're only pulling the trigger when you know your bullets are going to hit. And it also teaches you to use a technique I call one-wing shooting, where you're shooting with basically a single bullet stream at inside convergence. So the if you're all in the convergence screen, that's where I'd like everybody to be right now. Let's look at this crossing convergence I have set up for the course. Again, the outside guns cross to 300, center is at 325, inboard guns are at 350. This gives you what I call a crossing convergence at about halfway to that 325 point, or 162.5 yards, where you've got a nice tight bullet, actually a pair of tight bullet streams, and those are going to be about 8 to 9 feet apart. Okay, yeah, roger that. Let me know if I cut out. Wheeler, why don't you take the reins on that? If I seem to cut out, just let me know. Say again all after whatever you last heard.
Copy. Ryno, you're cutting out because you're hitting a memory leak in the box. About every 5 or 10 seconds, just rekey the mic like you would with range, and that won't happen.
Okay, roger that.
Are y'all on the runway?
So is there... No, we're in tower, or I'm sorry, we're in the hangar right now, looking at the convergence for the setup for the Corsair.
Roger, I only see a few of you in here, that's why I asked.
Yeah, we've got only about half as many guys as were scheduled to show up, so that's why I said I think tomorrow night there's going to be a lot more. 2 guys PM'd me and said they can't make it tonight and they're going to try to come tomorrow instead. And then I've got 2 others that are just no-shows, and Mousy that's sitting in the arena but hasn't tuned the Vox here yet. He was going to attend. He's in the arena but hasn't. he's AFK. Okay, so getting back to this convergence settings, one of the reasons I like this one is it gives you a nice cone from 300 to 350 yards. You've got kind of a cone of bullets there with the bullet dispersion that we'll see. You've got a nice, pretty solid cone of 50 cals out there between 300 and 350 yards. That's what the Air Force, Army Air Force said was the ideal firing range for the 50 cal in their manuals in World War II. That's one of the reasons I start with this setup. It's also a fairly close-in setup, and one of the nuances of shooting with the Corsair is getting over that big fat nose of the Corsair, and a lot of deflection shots that you take in this plane are actually going to be taken with the enemy under your nose. So by bringing the convergence in, it lifts the bullet stream a little bit. So when you're in close at convergence, you don't have to pull quite as lead as you do with a longer range convergence. If you had your convergence pushed out to 500 yards, you'd have a flatter bullet trajectory coming from the guns. It would take them longer to reach up to the pipper, and you'd have to aim higher. That means you also have to pull more lead when you're in a shooting or tracking shot pulling Gs. So let's sorry about that. I just turned my phone off. So let's get everybody on the runway. I'm going to assign runways. That way everybody has their own runway to work with. So Morph, why don't you go on the northeast runway, and TC go on the southwest runway here at 112. Turn your engine off, and hopefully the prop will stop where it's not in your gun sight. If it is, just turn your engine on again, let it spin, turn it off, and repeat that until you have a clear line of sight without a prop in your gun sight. Voodoo, if you want to go on the east runway, Wheeler on the west runway. Taliban, you and I will move over to field 115. And once you go on the northeast runway, and I'll go southwest. I think everyone should have a runway assigned. Now what I want you to do is use the .target command to bring up a target that's slightly elevated at your heading. So note the heading based on the runway that you're on. And the .target command works as follows. I'm going to type it into the 233 Vox buffer here. Okay, I've typed what I want you to type into the buffer, except for heading in parentheses. Use your heading in degrees. If you're west, type 270. If you're type 90. If you happen to be on a north runway, it's 0 or 360 will work. Obviously, northeast is 45. Southwest is 225. And the 13.25 elevation brings the gun sight up, which coincides with the line of sight here on the runway. I'm just setting up my target right now.
Almost got my target right, except It's 45 degrees off angle. I think I'll take an easier runway.
There you go. Yeah, you're going to have to remember your heading because we're going to be typing this .target command 5 times. So remember what degree you're using for your heading, which is the second number in the command. So if you zoom in a little bit, go ahead and zoom on your target. Does everybody know how to zoom? Or does anybody not know how to zoom? If you zoom in, you should see that you're pippered right on the crosshairs of the target because we've elevated it 13¼ degrees, which is our line of sight elevation sitting on the runway. That's why it was dangerous to taxi the Corsair, because it's got a pretty high nose-up attitude sitting on the runway and a big fat nose. Go ahead and fire about a 2 or 3 second burst. A bullet dispersion pattern at convergence, sitting on the runway with no other variables. The landing gear is actually absorbing some of the recoil. In flight, the recoil would actually, if we were in level flight, 300 miles an hour, the recoil would actually pull your nose down a little bit when you're firing. So this bullet pattern would actually be a little bit bigger. It would want to kind of ding a little bit. Now, looking at here with the target is each of those rings is a 10-foot radius. So their circle is 20 feet across. The inside circle of your gun sight is 40 feet across. Like I was saying, that is the wingspan of a Corsair or a Zero. So let's compare that to which is the tightest. Okay, don't have your target up. Hang on.
What's the azimuth height?
This height for the core is 13.25 at 325 yards. It actually varies for each distance. Because we're actually looking at the line of sight of the gun sight as opposed to the actual center line of the aircraft. Okay, maybe you didn't type the azimuth.
I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something wrong because when I add the azimuth, my target disappears.
But you make sure you get your heading typed correctly. Look around and see if you see the target on the heading.
No, I got the heading right. It's 45.
They all have to be in the same command. You have to type all 3 values in the same command, otherwise it resets it.
Yeah, you have to type the command. So dot target space 325. That's the distance setting. Heading.
45 is my heading, and what's the azimuth?
13.25. 1325.
You put the decimal point in there, or just put 1325?
Decimal point included. Just typed on the channel there. Dot target 325. The heading in degrees. You do not have to.
All right, I got it.
How you TC? Heading is just in a degree number. How you doing, Voodoo? You got that pulled, and is that going to show up in your film? what Wheeler typed is correct. First number is distance, then a space,
I got it.
then heading, degree, space, and then angle up or down. You can put in a negative number as well, which we'll talk about later.
I got it.
Us old guys, TC. Never had all these toys, huh?
Okay. So if you fire a 2 or 3 second burst there, 10 or 25 yards, you're going to see a bullet dispersion pattern that's about 10 feet in diameter. Now why that's significant?
You cut off after 10 feet.
Yeah, 10 feet in diameter, bullet dispersion pattern. Now, even if we harmonized all of our guns for 325 yards, because I've tested this, the pattern is still going to be about 10 feet, just due to the recoil of the guns themselves, the vibration. So that's why I use the mixed convergence.
A dispersion.
Yeah, the bullet dispersion. Yep. What did I say? So why this is important, again, is I want to compare this to what's hitting and what's not hitting with a form. So we've got this 10-foot bullet right at convergence with no with limited recoil effect and no bounce due to maneuvering. You know, zero. We've got no G's pulling on the aircraft, or 1 G, I should say. So let's move it into where it's top of the plane and look at it from F3 view and how many of those bullets would be hitting a fuselage or wings and how many. So I want everybody to type now, without clearing the target, type dot target 1, and then again the same heading you've been using. So dot target space 1 space whatever heading you're on, and no elevation. So just dot target 1 space 45 if you're on a 45 heading. And all of a sudden you're going to have a big white green there.
How do you get it up in the air to where it's in front of your plane?
Well, I'm doing it on the ground because you'll notice if you go to F3 mode, go ahead and hit F3, you should be looking at the back of your Corsair there. And it's lined up right with the center of gravity of the airplane.
Okay.
If you're looking at that view from behind, yeah, go ahead.
Some 5. If I go F3 mode, it'll be sitting on the ground in front of me, right?
Yeah, it's actually intersecting with your plane. If you go ahead and change your view to an external view to the side, look to the left or right. Just that intersecting right about at the front of the wings. I think it's zeroed somewhere near the center of gravity of the plane, I believe. I'm not sure exactly how they modeled it, where the target appeared. So that's 1 yard ahead of the center of gravity, actually, because we typed target space 1, 1 yard to that. Actually, dot target space 0 clears the target, so we don't want to do. So what we're looking at here from the F3 mode, go ahead.
If you leave the target at stock setting, you would need to jack the plane up horizontally. It sits horizontal. Planes without our tail draggers are going to sit with their nose pitched up. That's why the prop hub is above the line of center. If you had the plane level, the prop hub center and the target center would be identical. You can check that on any tricycle gear aircraft.
Oh, great.
Most tricycle gear aircraft, it's almost dead center with the center of the prop.
Yeah,
Not that that really matters, but
my top half is down, but right at the center line, bottom half, it's in the ground.
Yeah, the bottom of the target should be in the ground because we've got it at, it's lined up with the aircraft, and so because ground half is going to be below ground level.
Okay, as long as everybody's got, okay.
So I think
Sorry, Dick.
at the normal. Yep, that's one of the reasons I walk everybody through this on and use the same airplane so everyone's looking at the same thing. Now what you should see is some of your bullets are outside of that plane form. They've missed the fuselage essentially. Okay, no problem, TC. So none of that bullet pattern is going to hit a fuselage of an airplane, especially a smaller airplane like a 109. And that's with the tightest bullet stream essentially that you're going to get at optimal firing range. So what that means is that being unloaded and getting your bullet stream as tight as possible perfect shot. Does that follow that? Make sense? Yep. Okay. So when we get into our aerial shooting practices, I want everybody to be able to envision that 10-foot wide circle, 10 diameter, tight, relatively tight bullet dispersion pattern, about as tight as you're going to get at firing at convergence. Now you can get a tighter bullet pattern when you fire closer because essentially you have two smaller bullet streams coming out of the wings. So let's take a look at that, starting with where the guns are mounted. So let's clear this target. We're going to all type .target space 0. That's going to make the go away. It's going to take all the bullet hits off it. So dot space 0. Then you're going to type .10. So 10. Your whatever your heading is. 19.8. Space 10 space your heading space 19.8.
Space heading, space what?
19.8. 19.8. Now it's going to look a little funky when you go, if you're an external view.
Well, I figured out how to get the target up off the ground, so.
Yeah, it's that last number. That's what's raising it. Thank you, Wheeler. Go ahead and fire a short burst. 1 second will do. Now what is doing is demonstrating the bullet stream right as the bullets are leaving the gun, essentially, only 10 yards out. Now we're going to get out to half convergence. So I'm going to have you type .target space 162.5, or just 162 work, but to be exact, half of 325 is 162.5. Space 45, 13.45. So the element on this one is 13.45. I'm sorry, and I said 45 is the heading. That should be whatever your heading is, whatever heading you're on. Target 162.5 space your heading space 13.45. Go back to internal view, F1. Your pipper should be right on the crosshairs. Give her about a 2-second burst. Now, what this illustrates is what your bullets are doing from the point they leave the gun to halfway to convergence. In the Corsair, you can see the bullets are mounted about, the guns, I'm sorry. They're leaving the wings about 6 feet below your pipper. Then they're traveling upward in an upward arc towards the pipper so that they arrive at the pipper at convergence, which is 325. You'll all
Ryno, are we in F1 or F3?
F1 and go ahead and zoom in too so you really see that bullet. F1 and zoom in. Thank you for a good question. So you should see 2 little sets of bullets about 6 below the target on the interior circle, the first circle on the inside. And you'll notice that they're actually angled up a little bit. There's that gull wing angle of the Corsair that you see right in those 6 bullets. So those are the 6 individual bullets leaving the gun. And you see how much separation or version there is at 162 yards. So just that little vibration recoil of the guns is starting to separate that bullet stream out the further you get out. Then at convergence, those 2 bullet streams meet. And then they've got about a 1-foot wide bullet pattern, so that this has doubled, roughly. And then they continue beyond the point they cross, and anything beyond convergence, your right hand bullets are on the left side, left hand gun's bullets are on the right side. So I'm going to demonstrate that right now. Well, actually, let's take one more at this because this, I think, is an important point. If we're shooting somebody really close, where do we have to aim? We have to aim a little high, right? Because our bullets are low. I think what frustrates guys that have trouble with gunnery is right on somebody's dead 6, and that's actually dead 6 shooting is actually a little bit than shooting in a larger plane form. If you're putting the pipper right on the fuselage of the enemy and you're at 200 yards or less, your bullets are probably passing under him, and it looks like they're going right through the guy. What's happening is they're passing him, and your tracer you have them are rising to convergence, and it looks like your bullets just magically passed right through the enemy and didn't do any damage. It's because you're aiming too low. You need to raise the pipper a little bit, roughly to the intersection of the vertical and horizontal stabilizers, usually. Streams. This is one of the key things I like to demonstrate, because when you're shooting in close, which is what we want to do, you have to compensate for that bullet stream being a little too low, or not having risen to the pipper yet. Only at the pipper at your convergence distance. That's why adjusting your convergence has a dramatic effect on the bullet stream and what it looks like and where it's at different ranges. So moving along, I want to demonstrate what happens after it crosses at convergence at 325 yards. So go ahead and zero the, clear the target, type dot target space 0. Go ahead, TC. Do you have a question?
You said clear it as in exit out, or just clear it?
No. What you if you type target dot target space 0, That will get rid of the target. It will also take any bullets hits off of it. So next time you bring the target up, it'll be fresh.